Before we get started, hey there, I'm Jason Linett, and maybe you've heard me say this before. The more we're all successful, the more we're all successful. And the one thing that will grow our hypnosis profession better than anything else is to have more of you out there helping your own clients and thriving in your own hypnosis businesses. That's why I'm inviting you to join our private community, exclusively for listeners of the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast. We have several thousand members in the group, and this is where recent guests of the program share additional resources related to their episode. It's a positive community with hypnotic professionals from all around the world. So it's a great place to get your questions answered. And as a benefit, as soon as you join, I'm going to share with you the best of the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast archives. And listen to this. It's absolutely free to join. Go to this website, group.worksmarthypnosis.com. Go there right now, answer a few quick questions, and I'll personally be there to welcome you into this helpful community. Be sure to join today. That website is group.worksmarthypnosis.com. Do I put my programs on my website? The official answer is it depends. If you are early enough in your business and you are not yet maximizing your calendar and you want to book more people in, don't put the data on the website, because there's going to be an audience of people who sees that and makes a judgment, whether right or wrong, and then decides to not call you and connect with you based on that. So if you're early in the journey, then don't put these details on the site, because then it's a barrier. Alternatively, if your schedule is maxed out and you've got no room for more people and you're about to raise your rates, by all means, put the data on your website so that now you're only speaking to people who are ready and willing to actually pay for your services to then book with you. So again, the official answer, pricing on the website, programs on the website, it depends. Hypnosis helps people take back control of their lives. But here's the thing. Too many hypnotists struggle to get consistent results with their clients or grow their hypnosis businesses. I'm Jason Linett, and after more than 2 decades of building a thriving hypnosis practice, I created this podcast to help you do the same. Whether you're just starting your hypnosis journey or if you're ready to scale your business to the next level, you're exactly where you need to be. Welcome to Work Smart Hypnosis. When I was first getting started with my hypnosis business, when I was first opening up my original hypnosis practice, I didn't quite have an exact model to follow. So for a large part of it, I was having to guess and just kind of figure things out on my own. And the exact strategy that I'm about to share with you is one of the first things that I figured out. And even though it was a guess, it was something that completely transformed my business and many other hypnosis practitioners around the world. So yeah, it turns out this first guess might have been the right choice, because the method I'm about to share with you is one that has now sold in my business more than $4 million of private one-to-one client sessions. Welcome back. It's Jason, and this is Make It Rain Monday. It's a Make It Rain Monday edition of the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast. You see, these segments give you real-world proven strategies that you can put to use immediately to help your clients amplify your results and grow your hypnosis business. And before we officially dive in, I should take a quick moment and just unpack that big number that I just said, the $4 million thing. Because first of all, that wasn't all done at once. That wasn't even done in 1 year. We're talking collected over a big span of years. Yes, there's also operating expenses of running any business. And even on top of that, here's a period of time where I was staffing other hypnotists, other practitioners in my office. So yes, it's a big, impressive number, and it wasn't all mine to keep. But like I mentioned, this strategy that I'm about to share with you is really the first thing I ever created as a client package. And since then, I've then veered away from it at times. I tested other methods, and with everything else that I tested, I always ended up coming back. I just came back to what actually works. And this is, again, something that many other hypnosis practitioners from around the world, they've implemented this. They've put this to use in their practices, and they've reported positive feedback as well. One person in particular actually just said it simply. He goes, Jason, immediately doubled my business as a result of this one simple strategy. And I'll tell that story here in a few moments. Because when it comes to hypnosis, you might think that one session is all it takes for your client. One and done, and just poof, magic, it's done, it's taken care of. Though the reality is, especially for those of you who have been at this for a while, actually seeing clients and not just repeating the things that seem popular in different Facebook groups online, the reality is that change, personal transformation, it's not always a simple black and white issue. Sure, sometimes we get it right. Sometimes we find the right core thing. Sometimes, let me just use a word here, sometimes we just get lucky. But more often than not, there's a need for multiple sessions in order to fully realize somebody's desired outcome. There's often multiple layers of the client's issue, and it's that type of situation that calls for a dash of patience, maybe a little bit of persistence. I'll also throw in the word tenacity if you really want those changes to actually stick and become part of that person's reality moving forward. So before we dive in here, let me tell you what this week's strategy is not. This is not about convincing your client that their issue is too big to be resolved and then, okay, I'm going to use a negative word here, swindling them into an extended program for the sake of getting paid more. No, it's not that at all. Instead, this is about being honest. This is about being transparent and flexible with your clients. And I'll tell you in advance, it's this type of transparent communication and honest business practice that helped my business to grow so quickly and helped me to then establish what I now have in my business today. Also, this is not about making a promise that you might not be able to fulfill. There was one time early on in my training, I was already established and seeing clients, but I was continuing my education because just the more that I learned, the more flexible and more confident I became in what I did. And at one point, I learned from someone else who politely, I won't say the name here, they were telling people that, tell your clients, we can resolve this issue in 4 sessions. And that sounds really good now, doesn't it? But then what do you do when you haven't done that? What happens when you're at session 4 and clearly there's more work to be done and, maybe some of the change is in motion, but not all of it has been fully realized. So I fully wanted to avoid that scenario. And let me just point one more thing out here. This is not about hyped up marketing telling you that you need to sell high ticket or that you're completely wrong for ever selling sessions. Well, here's the thing though. Your initial program for people can be moderately priced. It could be low priced. And what I'm about to describe to you actually could be high ticket, could be a very high payment rate. There's no absolutes to this. I never speak in absolutes. You've been around me enough. I never speak in absolutes. With that exception, I never do that. Okay, I was just doing that right now, I know. No one ever said this can't be high ticket. So you could also have a pricing plan for ongoing work with the clients who actually need additional help. So before we dive in, here's what you need to know. With this approach that I'm about to share with you, I've had a lot of clients who wrapped up their sessions in an early, few number of sessions. But then I've also had people who wanted to dive deeper and explore more issues. With the strategy I'm about to share with you, you have the flexibility to do that. And did you catch that word? I mentioned how flexible this is for your client. It keeps things flexible for you as well, depending on what the client needs. Each session can be tailored specifically to them. Plus, it makes sure that everyone leaves your process feeling good about how far they've come and confident that these changes will stick around. Your clients are going to love how simple and direct this is. So here we go. This is a Make It Rain Monday edition, session number 446. Package your sessions to work smart. Has your hypnosis client ever said this to you? I felt relaxed, but I don't know if I was hypnotized. If you've heard that before, it means that one of the most critical elements was missing from your hypnosis session. You might have done every hypnosis technique and every hypnotherapy method correctly, but you've accidentally sabotaged your chances of your client getting their desired result. Here's the good news. It's an easy problem to fix. Check out this website, power.worksmarthypnosis.com. This is where you can get instant access to my Hypnotic Phenomenon Power Pack featuring the Hypnotize with Conviction program. It's a foolproof system to reliably create magical moments of hypnotic phenomenon with all of your clients, whether you see them in person or even online. What this does for you is help to build greater conviction that the desired change is already in motion. And even better, it means that your client will be able to actually feel the change taking place. How cool is that? It's these types of magical moments that helped my clients to become the people who sent me referrals and left me 5-star reviews. And I'm inviting you to grab this low-cost method that you can learn today and put to use with your next client. So go to power.worksmarthypnosis.com. We start with a plan of 2 sessions. If that's all we need, fantastic. If there's value in more, of course, that's always an option. My goal is to give you the most effective process in the most efficient use of your time. There it is. That's how you package your sessions to work smart. I'll say it again, I'll repeat it a few more times, but also stick around because I'm going to break down some of the nuances that are embedded inside of this, but also point out the flexibility of this too. We start with a plan of 2 sessions. If that's all we need, fantastic. If there's value in more, of course, that's also an option. My goal is to give you the most effective process in the most efficient use of your time. I've said that now thousands of times. I've shared that with practitioners around the world. This is, again, the first guess at what I put in place to run my hypnosis business. And as much as I've tried to implement other things to this day, this is still, at its basic core model, what has worked the best. One more time. We start with a plan of 2 sessions. If that's all we need, fantastic. If there's value in more, of course, that's an option. My goal is to give you the most effective process in the most efficient use of your time. Now, let me begin to break this down into the individual pieces of it so that it begins to make sense. So, first of all, listen for the first part of it, which is that we start with a plan of insert number sessions. So this is where it's going to be a bit flexible based upon you, your specific approach to hypnosis, your specific methods and strategies that you would use in your session. So take note that opening number is the most flexible part of this. And in terms of linguistics, in terms of communication, let's also dip our toes lightly into the world of influence and persuasion. All you need is a because. And if you take one thing away from everything I'm about to share with you here, it's really that I'm telling you not to go in and say one at a time, let's see how it goes. The one and done kind of model of sessions creates this dynamic of the fingers crossed, hope it works. It also creates this sort of binary feeling around the process in that it either worked or it didn't. And as an easy example of this, I'll give a quick reference. Those of you that are members of my online hypnosis training library, it's called Hypnotic Workers. You can check that out over at hypnoticworkers.com. It's not recurring membership. It's pay for it and then lifetime access. Though I'm specifically referencing this for the Stop Smoking with Rebecca session that's inside of there, where it's the second appointment and she nailed it. She came in going, this is amazing. Physically, I have quit smoking. I haven't had a craving at all. This has been a whole lot easier than I ever imagined. However, there's been a few stressful moments where I thought about it. And I figured that, we knocked out the physical side of it. Now we can deal with the emotional side of it, right? And of course, I'm there going, yes, exactly. Let's do that here. So imagine, though, if this was somebody who had only done one appointment and a big chunk of the change had been established, but clearly there were some other pieces to then be addressed. Sometimes the mind just needs one little thing to hang off of and go, oh, it didn't work because. So if all you do from a result of what I'm sharing with you right now is just implement this idea of no more single sessions. Instead, we start with a plan of 2. If that's all we need, fantastic, then great, roll with it. Because here's that easy example of that Rebecca session, which you could watch the entire session from start to finish in that Hypnotic Workers library if you're curious to see it. So this also begs the question, though, what if they're done in just 2 appointments? Awesome. You've got a raving fan. And the reality is, I've actually got people who, more than a decade ago, I might have seen for just like 2, maybe 3 appointments, and they're still pointing people my way many years later. This also then brings in the other, yeah, but what about question, such as, well, what do you do if you're in the second session with this person now and, the change is done? It's been accomplished. Like there's nothing really else to be done. Well, there still kind of is, in my opinion. And take note of this before you start to mind read or attach any other meaning to what I'm sharing with you here. No, I'm not telling you to book more sessions for the sake of getting paid. We already clarified that in the opening half of this week's episode. If it's the second appointment and the change is already in motion, if all you end up doing is positive ego strengthening, ramp up the solidity and the concrete nature of the change, boost up their confidence, teach them a method or two of self-hypnosis to further strengthen the change that they've created, that's quality work. Now, if you're then doing that for like 27 more appointments, I have an opinion about that. Instead, though, logical, transparent, flexible, that's what this does for you. And again, that opening number is the most flexible thing of this. I'll talk more about that here in a moment. So the question, though, is what if they need more? Well, again, I've had people who I saw simply 2 or 3 times, and they still send me referrals more than a decade later. On the other hand, though, I also have people who I worked with that eventually, over time, over a span of years, I'm thinking of like maybe 3 or 4 different people right now that I might have seen them maybe more than 24 times. Now, again, before you dive in and start to cast judgment on that one, no, we're not playing the games of fingers crossed, promising you, hey, one of these days, I hope it sticks. No, it's that here's someone who came in and suddenly they might have worked with a whole bunch of other different methods and modalities to try to resolve this issue. And then all of a sudden, here comes hypnosis. And then, let me use a charged F word here, it suddenly fixed everything with regard to that specific issue. And here's one guy specifically who just goes, hey, what does it look like to keep working with you? Because everything else I've ever done, I felt more at peace with the issue. I learned how to cope with the problem. But after just the first 2 appointments with you, Jason, this just resolved that issue entirely. Like it's gone. And I got other, he used a more colorful word. I've got other stuff that needs to be addressed. And I'd love to keep working with you on a regular basis. So he actually became someone who, over time, just had a recurring payment with me. A specific day of the month was his at that specific timeline. And, we kept it going. Again, not for the sake of one of these days it's going to stick. Instead, though, he found a method that worked for him. And because of that, he goes, let me use this to keep moving forward. So back to that original number. And again, let me give you the whole spiel once again here. We start with a plan of 2 sessions. If that's all we need, fantastic. If there's value in more, of course, that's an option. My goal is to give you the most effective process in the most efficient use of your time. Now, this is where the opening number of sessions, that might be flexible based again on your specific style. And you also have a right. I was going to save something for an episode later, but I have to talk about it now. Let me just say it here. As a hypnotist, as a business owner, we all understand the concept of client-centered hypnosis. Let me now introduce a new concept to you. You have the right, as a person who runs your own business, to operate a practitioner-centered business that happens to provide client-centered services. Ooh, doesn't that sound interesting? Let me say it again. You have a right to run a practitioner-centered business that happens to provide client-centered services. So within that, the number is flexible, and I'll give you an example of this one, which is that if it was somebody who was coming to me for, let's say, a substantial amount of weight loss, I'm telling that person, hey, we start with a plan of 4 sessions. If that's all we need, fantastic. If it was, hey, I'm starting to get nervous driving on highways, hey, we start with a plan of 2 sessions. If that's all we need, fantastic. If it's public speaking and I'm to the point that I am completely avoiding the opportunity and calling in sick to work rather than actually go in and speak, we start with a plan of 5 sessions. If that's all we need, fantastic. And those numbers, to use a technical term here, those numbers are not things I just pulled out of my butt. No. Instead, from experience and working with people in the style that I do, I kind of settled on specific numbers around certain issues. So experiment, test this out for yourself. mesh this together with your own individual style, and that's where this all becomes much more flexible. This is why the question often pops up as a side note to this: do I put my pricing on my website? Do I put my programs on my website? The official answer is it depends. If you are early enough in your business and you are not yet maximizing your calendar and you want to book more people in, don't put the data on the website, because there's going to be an audience of people who sees that and makes a judgment, whether right or wrong, and then decides to not call you and connect with you based on that. So if you're early in the journey, then don't put these details on the site, because then it's a barrier. Alternatively, if your schedule is maxed out and you've got no room for more people and you're about to raise your rates, by all means, put the data on your website so that now you're only speaking to people who are ready and willing to actually pay for your services to then book with you. So again, the official answer: pricing on the website, programs on the website, it depends. Well, this also brings us to the other part of this, which is, well, what do you do if they need more? Well, here's the easy part of that. That's already embedded inside of this Work Smart program. What it does for you is it already begins to telegraph the story that, hey, that might be an option. That might be a thing we end up doing. You've already roadmapped this in advance, and it won't be a surprise. And this is where, in your initial booking conversation with your clients, you're telling them a specific price for this initial program. And then I always did this. I would also reference, if you wanted to do additional work, here's what the pricing of that looks like. So that way there's no surprises. I said it in the initial conversation. It was also referenced in my client intake forms. You notice how I'm covering all the, well, what about this? What about this? What about that? Well, as hypnotists, we're also really good at playing that game to ourselves. There is strength in the simplicity of this. Don't overcomplicate it. It's very straightforward. So what if they insist on, here's another question. What if they insist on knowing how many sessions is it going to be? Well, I want you to hear an embedded element inside of what I'm about to say. It's that any bit of doubt, any bit of skepticism I'm about to telegraph and the quote I'm about to give you here, I'm putting that doubt and skepticism, I'm internalizing that on myself. I'm not going to be projecting this as if to blame or put down another practitioner. Let's not do that, people, because here's the response. Well, I need to know how many sessions it's going to be. Someone else told me that they can do this in 5 sessions. Well, we haven't met yet. And quite honestly, I'd be cautious if someone who I haven't yet worked with could promise me such a personal outcome, very specifically in terms of number of sessions, even before we began working. Now, again, notice what I did there. I put the doubt on myself. I did not say, I don't believe that. I don't believe that person can do that. Instead, I'm putting that on myself, which, yes, let's call it out, does invite the person to then bring in the same skepticism and doubt. The transparency, the congruency of this, that's part of what makes this work. And once again, having a pricing model in place so that now here is the pricing model for this initial series, whether for you it's 2 sessions, 3 sessions, 5. I've got one person who does it always for 6 because they only work on specific ongoing medical issues, and that's their style. Have a set price for the opening series, but then also have a pricing option for what it looks like to then continue onward. Again, strength in simplicity. And the beauty of this is the transparency of it. This either is moderately priced. This could also be high ticket from the start. This also could eventually become high ticket. And let me throw in a little bonus phrase here. In response to just the common sense of this type of offer, I'd still occasionally have the person go, well, can I just do one and see how it goes? And here's my exact response that I'd give them. It's not that I want to get paid for X number of sessions. It's that I have found this is the most effective way to get the process in motion and see you through the journey of this change. And I held to it. Well, can I just do the one and see how it goes? Well, again, it's not that I want to get paid for that many sessions. It's instead that I want to work with people who are ready to dive into something and have it be a process and be committed to the change. Well, I need to do it just one. Well, I'm sure you can find someone else who can help you out. This is what I do because I want my clients to be successful. This is what I found to be the most effective, which is highly reasonable, especially if your opening number might be as low as 2 sessions. And again, that's the most flexible part of this. So one more time, for good measure, we start with a plan of 2 sessions. If that's all we need, fantastic. If there's value in more, of course, that's an option. My goal is to give you the most effective process in the most efficient use of your time. That's it. The strength is its simplicity. Put this to use. Don't overcomplicate it. Your clients will thank you for it. Thank you for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast with Jason Linett. The more we're all successful, the more we're all successful. I've made that statement for years. It's why I do this show. And here is one thing that you can do today to help do your part. Go to worksmarthypnosis.com/podcast. Go there and make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcast platform. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you'd leave a review. Your feedback helps other hypnosis professionals find the show. Subscribe and share your thoughts today at worksmarthypnosis.com/podcast.